Today is probably one of the worst days for rideshare drivers, at least in one part of the country, because this is a benefit and advance, something great that most drivers in that area thought they had in the bag. What up, folks? Once again, it is your boy Tim with a awful ride sharing video. This one is coming to you out of Minnesota. We were already celebrating the news because Minnesota, for the most part, is a liberal state, liberal Senate, liberal Congress, and they were well on their way to passing a bill giving drivers a hell of a lot of protections that we kind of need in most markets. Now, the reason this is an awful day is because this bill passed in both the House and Senate, and the governor, who has not vetoed a bill in over 4 years, decided to veto this one. So what we thought we were assured to have become law in Minnesota, which included really good tidbits for drivers, $1.45 per mile was going to become law, 34 cents per minute of wait time was going to become law, all sorts of legislation to prevent wrongful deactivations from the app, giving drivers a chance to appeal and having a guarantee of sorts that their appeals would be listened to. All of that was in this damn bill. The senators and the Congress folks in the state of Minnesota had passed this bill. So it was up to the governor to just simply sign it into law, and he actually vetoed it. But I want to give you his actual wording. This is from the statement. This is a statement that was released from Tim Walz, is the governor up there in Minnesota. And this is a statement that was released. It's just disappointing, and I will tell you why I believe after 4 years this governor decided to veto the bill helping rideshare drivers when he is not known to veto bills at all. Now, what was released: rideshare drivers deserve safe working conditions and fair wages, and I am committed to finding solutions to these issues that balance the interests of all Minnesotans, drivers and riders alike. However, House File 2369 is not the right bill to achieve these goals and is simply not ready to be codified in Minnesota law. For these reasons, I have vetoed and am returning Chapter 65, House File 2369, a bill related to Transportation Network Company, to the driver. So he's going to give his reasons, but I want you to hear the words that are being released from the governor's office, because I think a lot of it is BS. First of all, he states that riders deserve, safe working conditions and fair wages. Okay, absolutely, we all agree with that. And he follows up by saying, I am committed to finding solutions. Well, if you're committed to finding solutions, not only why did you veto this bill, which would have given drivers exactly what you suggest you're committed to, but what are you doing on your own? What have you tried to pass? Out of the 4 years you've been known for not vetoing bills, rideshare salaries have continued to go down. There's no doubt that even though Minnesota is not my market personally, I don't have to do any homework to know wages in Minnesota have went down for rideshare drivers. That's the whole damn reason they've been out there striking and fighting for this, is they have not been treated properly, just like around the nation, with the exception of a few areas that have passed laws to help us out, like Seattle, Washington, New York, New York City, New York, or Chicago's working on something, and California's done a few things. For the most part, the rest of the country has seen their wages go down over the last 4 years. So it's not like you have to really do any homework to figure out if people are getting paid less. Every damn body is getting paid less as time has went on with these companies, which also makes it more disappointing, because one of the things that was in this bill was a minimum wage for drivers and having wages tied into inflation. So as inflation goes up, so does rideshare wages for drivers. And we all know, like I just stated before, wages for us have continued to go down. If you've been driving for any length of time, yours truly, I've been driving off and on since 2014. We all know we make a hell of a lot less than we did in the beginning, and inflation has went up. So what has happened is inflation has went up significantly and wages have went down significantly. So this would have stopped that from happening. And then, of course, wrongful deactivations where people can make up crap and get you thrown off the app. Fact is, this was a really, really good bill. That's why I'm really just hurt by this, because this could have been something that could have continued throughout the country. But I want to continue and let you hear a little bit more of what he released. This bill could make Minnesota one of the most expensive states in the country for rideshare, potentially putting us on par with the cost of rides in New York and Seattle, cities with dramatically higher cost of living than Minnesota. Without objective Minnesota-specific data, we do not have a clear understanding of the impacts on riders, drivers, and rideshare companies. And without a better understanding of these impacts, it would be imprudent to dramatically raise the cost of rideshare, especially for low-income Minnesotans, those in the disability community who depend on rideshare for independence, people who use rideshare for medical transportation to get to work, Minnesotans without cars, and Minnesotans who simply need a safe ride home at night. Here's what I really don't like about this, is that all of these lower income folks that he's trying to protect who need rides, you got to understand one thing. Uber is not footing the bill for these lower income people to get from point A to point B. The drivers are the ones that are doing that, who are often low income themselves. It's not like disability folks and low income folks who need rides have a big ass company out there like Uber or Lyft that's giving them rides for a cheap price. No, it's coming from the drivers. Uber and Lyft take up to 80% of our fares. So you're forcing literally the poor to transport the poor. And the moment the poor, in terms of drivers, try to get a little bit of an increase on their salary, which they would be happy to continue providing the transportation you're fighting to have continue, instead you shut them out. As opposed to listening to Uber and Lyft, because obviously Uber has already threatened that if this went through, they would pull out of Minnesota completely. I've told you that is complete bull, because they make the same threats in Washington, New York, and these other cities, and they did not do that. Instead of talking about how rates would go up, should have went to Uber and Lyft and told them, why are you taking 80% of the fare? Why are you taking so much of the damn fare? That is why the rates are going to skyrocket, is because you're ripping off the drivers. So the only way we can get the drivers an increase that's not going to hurt the passengers that need these rides, as all these communities he's pointing out, is for you guys to not continue ripping them off. Why not just simply go after a damn law that limits how much Uber and Lyft can take of the fares? I believe a couple states are doing that. As opposed to anything else, since they're going to fight every damn thing else, from now on, just simply target how much they can take of the fare. Because there are plenty of trips, and I'm sure my veteran drivers in the comments can back me up, because you've probably had it happen to you, where the company takes more of the fare than you actually get, even though it's your car, your insurance, your fuel, your time, your safety, and all of that other shit. That's what they need to target. Because, yeah, Uber and Lyft are correct. If we get an increase in fare, they're going to pass that on to the passenger, because at the end of the day, they're still trying to force a collection of up to 80% out of all of the darn fares. That's where the problem is. It's not that the drivers are asking too much. It's that Uber and Lyft are already getting too much. And unfortunately, this governor did not do his homework. It sounds as though he literally sat down with Uber and Lyft, asked them what's the problems, and said, yes, okay, I understand. I'll veto the bill tomorrow. If he had sat down with drivers would have told him exactly what I'm stating, and many of you often state in the comments. Uber and Lyft, particularly Uber, because they're the granddaddy of this crap, but Lyft as well, they're taking too much of the fare. That is why this is happening. If you look at what Uber and Lyft, the amount they took of the fares back when this first started, 25, 30%. Their take of the fare has steadily increased. And in regards to whether the fare will increase or not, that's happened anyway. In Minnesota, once again, I haven't been in Minnesota. I don't drive there. I haven't even done my homework on this, but I'm quite confident. And if anyone is driving in that area, feel free to let me know in the comments if you feel I'm right or wrong. But in the state of Minnesota, in the Twin Cities area, Minneapolis, St. Paul, fares over the last 10 years or so, since ride sharing has come along, fares in that area have went up anyway, and driver salaries have went down. So it doesn't matter if you appease Uber or Lyft, they're going to eventually find a way to raise the damn fares anyway. That's what has historically been happening, yet they were able to convince this governor to not give these protections to the driver. But I want you to hear this last part because it really plays into my statement about they're forcing the poor to transport the poor. Moreover, disability advocates, anti-violence organizations, and organizations representing seniors, child care centers, and local governments have all raised significant concerns about the impact of this bill. Those groups are united in their concern about how increased rideshare rates will limit and potentially eliminate needed transportation options for vulnerable communities. With public transportation options not uniformly available to all Minnesotans, it is imperative to maintain current affordable, accessible rideshare service options. All of the entities they mentioned, disability advocates, anti-violence organizations, you're probably talking about women's shelters and things like that. These are all third-party organizations that are booking rides for passengers, and they're not tipping us. Almost all of these different organizations do not have your best interests at heart to begin with. And here they are forcing or demanding the governor to keep your rates down. This is why I've done videos in the past telling folks, do not allow Uber or Lyft to use your vehicle as a medical transport. This is what they have done to us. Finally, we got a raise lined up. And those same damn companies have now went on the other side of our best interest and fought to keep our wages down. Those same medical transport companies. Literally, the first statement in this is disability advocates. That's those type of people. Same thing with organizations representing seniors. So if you're picking up folks from nursing homes and things like that, in fact, any of your rides that are booked by a third-party organization is likely to be in this shit. Those are the folks that are trying to keep rides cheap because they're offering a service to someone and they're making money off of them one way or another, whether through the actual passenger or through some kind of government subsidy for helping them out. And they're trying to continue their services by forcing you as a driver to take less for your services. This is literally a defined case of the poor being forced to service the poor. Most drivers are not making a hell of a lot of money. And this is the time for us to get a little bit of extra acknowledgement for using our cars, insurance, our time, putting our safety on the line and all of that. And this is what we get as a response. Meanwhile, Uber and Lyft continues to get up to 80% of the fare. This is about as awful as it gets for Minnesotans. And I don't know what else to say on this. I mean, there was a bunch of Somalians and immigrants and things like that that went down to the council and really kicked this off to begin with. So it could be a case of the government not really giving a damn about those type of folks that are being disenfranchised. I'm not saying that's what it is, but at the end of the day, it's clear they don't give a damn about rideshare drivers because this should not have happened. Seattle is making do with those rates. New York is too. And Minnesota would easily be able to give drivers these rates if they could simply get Uber and Lyft not to be so damn greedy and take the large lion's share of the fare. In defense of Uber, based on a statement I'm reading here, apparently Uber or one of the ride-sharing companies is stating that they had offered to pay drivers $1.17 per mile, but that was declined. Now, the cost of living in Minneapolis is pretty expensive. I've been up there, and it certainly is. It's a costly metropolitan area to live in. So I don't think $1.17 per mile is anything to brag about in the Minnesota Twin Cities area. Nevertheless, the fact that they were willing to offer $1.17 per mile as a concession shows they're not even paying that much right now. Now, the drivers were about to get $1.45 a mile. That has been vetoed. Let's see if they're going to go back and say, okay, well, now that we've beat you, we'll at least give you the $1.17 a mile. My guess is they're going to laugh at drivers in the face and say, hey, too bad. Should have took the $1.17. Get back going with your 90 cents or 80 cents or whatever they're paying in the Twin Cities area. I don't know what it is, but I'm not driving tonight just out of anger for seeing this crap. I don't know if anything like this has happened anywhere else that is that close, literally snatching defeat out of the jaws of victory. It's really upsetting. Nevertheless, I wanted to bring this to you guys as always. Hopefully I'll have some better news in future videos, but this sucks. It's your boy Tim. As always, subscribe to the channel and we'll talk again in the future.
For the love of money.